The 5.0 second half banners have just been revealed, and I have so many thoughts. We're going to go over the 5 stars, the 4 stars, and of course the weapon banner to talk about if these banners are worth it for you, and also talk about the weird Chevreuse game that Genshin seems to be playing. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. Starting off with the 5 stars, I actually have been able to experience Keqing to know how he plays and how he feels. I will not be releasing a full video on him until after he releases and I can test him on my account, because the way things work right now, the testing that I do pre-release is unreliable, and so my ultimate Keqing video will come out just a couple days after he releases. I already have his mats pre-farmed, so it won't be nearly as long as it was for Mualani, where I had to spend just a couple days farming for her. So if you're looking to pull Keqing based on power or value or something like that, I would definitely wait for that video. If you're looking to pull Keqing and you just want it to be at least decently strong or at least pretty fun or not have any, game-breaking bugs or really annoying issues, I can tell you that he's great. I can tell you that he's really fun. He worked in a variety of teams, and if you like his character, if you like his gameplay, and he's a DPS that you've been looking for, then I think you should get him. I think he's definitely one of the good DPSs. I don't know that I would say that he's top beta or anything like that, but if you've been really wanting to get him, he is at least good enough that you will be enjoying him if you get him for your personal reasons. Meta, again, we'll have to wait for my ultimate team's analysis. I have a great artifact set plant ready for him, everything pre-farmed, etc. Raiden, I've been treating like a new unit. I just finished testing 44 teams with her. My full Raiden guide will be coming out tomorrow. It was going to come out today, but now this video is today. So, and I'll say that the current state of Raiden is power, like peak power, like absolute clears, helping your account 36 star, etc. She is a little bit weaker in terms of power than the newer DPSs. Just how it is. It makes me tragically, depressingly sad because Raiden is my favorite character in the game. But she does have some pros. She is ridiculously flexible. She has so many solid to good teams. She just doesn't have any teams that just like make her really pop off and like really sing and you're like, wow, this is a broken character. But she has a lot of good teams that she synergizes well with, and you'll be able to make a good team with Raiden no matter what. You've got Chevreuse teams, you've got Farina teams, you've got national teams with Bennett Chengling, you've got hyper carry teams, which are not as good as pretty much any of those other teams in my opinion. You can also use her as a supportive role for hyper bloom teams, so for Novelette, for Alhaitham, for Nahida Double Dendro or Double Hydro. She also has a secret team that I'll talk about in my ultimate Raiden video, which is coming out tomorrow. So she's kind of jack of all trades, but she also has the pro of giving you infinite interruption resistance at Constellation 0, which very few DPSs do. Which means that if you're not good at the game, if you're kind of skill issue, which I am pretty skill issue, but I've gotten better after testing so many teams. If you're really quite skill issue though, you might actually find that she's as good or maybe even better than other DPSs if aside from Novelette with Zhongli or something. Because she's very easy to play, you're gonna have a pretty easy time hitting her max damage, and you're gonna have a very consistent time doing it. So it is really kind of like using Zhongli, because she can't be knocked around, she can't be staggered, which is really cool. As a casual, she would probably still be one of my favorite characters to play. As someone who now plays a lot of characters and has experienced the power that Arlecchino can give, that Novelette can give, in AoE in particular. I wouldn't recommend Raiden from a power standpoint, but from a flexibility standpoint, from a quality of life standpoint, from a comfort standpoint, I would recommend Raiden. So it just depends on what you're looking for. Just like with Keqing, it depends on what you're looking for. One thing that really does hold her back, I will say, is her artifact set does a lot for her. You need her artifact set, but it doesn't do 40 crit rate a lot. And if you're building her as a DPS, she is one of the hardest characters to build. You need great artifacts, and that's pretty annoying. Artifacts are really annoying. For both of these characters, I definitely think Keqing is a stronger character. Raiden is a more flexible character. Make sure you like their gameplay, and if you like either of them, you can go for them and they won't hold you back. They're good. Now, constellations. I'll go into constellations for Keqing in the ultimate guide for him, but for Raiden, her C2 is great, but it's not as great as it was before. She was the first good C2, but now you know, Furina's C1 is going to be better, right? Arlecchino's C1, Novelet's C1, these all give similar upgrades to Raiden C2 for only the price of a C1. That being said, if you don't have C6 Chevreuse, going for C6 Chevreuse and getting C2 Raiden along the way, that's not bad. It's not recommended, but if you're a simp and you're trying to justify, they're trying to, this is where I kind of want to start talking about Hoyoverse's game. So we've got Chevreuse, who's an extremely long-awaited character. Everyone's been waiting for Chevreuse. I thought for sure Chevreuse was going to come back on Arlecchino's banner or on Cloran's banner. But instead, they put her on the Raiden banner and then again on the Raiden banner. So she's been on the Raiden banner twice in a row. And almost, is she an exclusive character to Raiden? Like, are they trying to make her like a support, like a dedicated support for Raiden? Because don't get me wrong, I love Raiden Chevreuse and I think it's a great team. But Raiden already has a dedicated support, which is kind of funny because Kujo Sara I really don't like. I don't like. I know there's some you can do like a super giga buff Sara Bennett Chevreuse team and you can get some good clears and you can have some good damage, but outside of Chevreuse teams, Sara is terrible because Furina is so much better, between her bigger buffing and personal damage also being good. So I'm really not a fan of Sara outside of very specific Chevreuse teams, but they're on the banner together. I just think it's funny that they're putting Chevreuse only with Raiden and not with Cloran, because Cloran and Arlecchino both are stronger with Chevreuse than Raiden. Raiden's the most comfortable, unless you use Toma with your Cloran, and then you have more power and more comfort. Like, this would have been a perfect, like, Cloran banner, because you're not using Toma with Raiden. And you're not using Toma with Keqing either, because I don't think it works. Maybe it does. I'll have to test it. I don't think that, well, maybe that they do count as normal attack. Anyways, I still don't think you run Keqing with Toma anyways. But it seems like they're using 4 stars to bait people into going for Raiden, which is like, it feels like a weird thing to do. Because there's like how good Raiden is, and how good Chevreuse is as like a baseline, right? Like in a vacuum. And then there's like this meta narrative where sure, they're that good in a vacuum, but if you have like C6 Chevreuse is one of my favorite Cloran teams, it's one of my favorite Arlecchino teams. But if you have C6 Chevreuse, then at this point, it'd be shocking if you didn't have C2 Raiden, because maybe you pulled for some Chevreuse on the last banner, got C0 or C1, now you get some more Chevreuse, and now you have C1 Raiden, so you might as well go for C2, so you do. And yeah, I mean, Raiden at C2 is comparable to Arlecchino, right? Raiden at C2 is better than Cloran. It's this weird, like, for me trying to be objective, I have Constellation 4 Raiden, because I got really lucky pulling for Raiden when I got my Chevreuse, and I still haven't activated my Raiden constellations because I still got a bit of a chip on my shoulder with people who say that C0 Raiden is not a good DPS, and she still is good. Not amazing, still good. And also I just want to be able to test every single character at equal-ish investment. But when you start looking at this meta narrative, it's like, if you have C6 Chevreuse at this point, do you just have C2 Raiden? Is that just like the thing? I'm also curious if people would want to see a C2 versus C0 Raiden ultimate comparison. I've played so much C0 Raiden, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about activating the constellations from a Raiden, but I'm a bit scared too. So the question of, should you pull on these banners for Chevreuse for other teams? It's really interesting. I don't know. Chevreuse is a really good character, and I think with the Pyro Archon, Chevreuse could be an amazing meta character. She could be a tier 0 character. Right now I don't think she's quite tier 0 because there's not quite the pieces in place to make a tier 0 team. But I think with the Pyro Archon, I think Chevreuse could be a tier 0. I'm not saying she will be, I'm saying she could be. Will they keep her exclusive to Raiden though? Will Chevreuse run once a year on the Raiden banner, or are they totally baiting people, and are they going to put her on the Mavuika banner with the Pyro Archon? It's like this horrible game of chicken, where, because if you don't pull her, and then Mavuika Cloran, Chevreuse, or Mavuika Arlecchino Chevreuse is like BDIF, one of the best teams in the game, then you missed out. But if they put her on Mavuika's banner, and you wished on this banner and now you got Raiden for no reason, not no reason, but if you got Raiden, or if you got Keqing and you didn't really want them and you just wanted the Chevreuse, and also C6 is a lot. She's still good at C0, by the way. You can check out my original Chevreuse video, which I think is actually still pretty good. I think it held up pretty well. I think C0 Chevreuse is quite good, and C6 Chevreuse is excellent. I don't know. I still don't recommend wishing on a banner that you don't have, that you don't want to get the 5-star of. If you don't mind getting a 5-star, then you can go for some copies and you can start building pity for your C6 Chevreuse if you don't mind getting the 5-star. Maybe you got 1 or 2 copies from the last banner. You got lucky. Maybe you got a copy from standard or weapon banner, or an off rate up. Maybe you want to snipe 1 or 2 more copies, and then by the next time she comes, you can get her and you didn't have to pull a Raiden or Keqing or whatever the other character was last time. Ayato or something. I guess some of you might be wondering if it's worth going for C2 Raiden and C6 Chevreuse on the same banner. It's a good amount of value. There was a beta server where I tested I tested my C2 Raiden with a C6 Chevreuse, and I wasn't blown away. It was quite good, but I wasn't absolutely floored. It was good, but with how much people talk about, with how much people used to talk about how broken C2 Raiden was, it didn't blow me away. I think if you love Raiden, I think it's worth it. But if you want to pull for meta, then you're probably better off getting your Chevreuse constellations on the Keqing banner. Even if Keqing, probably, but we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, you can't use Keqing with Chevreuse, but either Arlecchino or Florand or a future Pyro character or a future Electro character. It's a tricky one. I really sympathize for you guys that have to decide what you want to do. Hopefully this gives some tips and thoughts on how you want to approach pulling for Chevreuse. Chevreuse's big pro across all of her teams is the multi-wave performance. Multi-wave has been the bane of a lot of teams' existence, and Chevreuse just makes... Chevreuse multi-wave teams are T0 teams. They are crazy strong. Whether it's Chevreuse Raiden, Chevreuse Arlecchino, or Chevreuse Florand, they clear nutty fast because they have basically no setup time. The buff refreshes on every enemy that you trigger an overload on, so as long as you have consistent off-field application for whatever element your on-fielder is not providing, they are crazy teams, and they can keep up with the best Neuvillette teams, the best Alhaitham teams, whatever it is, and they are crazy easy to play. So that's the really big pro for Chevreuse. But the only other thing to keep in mind is not to go too crazy and lose all your wishes and lose all your pity when we've got Xilonen coming next. We don't know what Xilonen does yet, but we will know what she does before the end of this banner. So before you blow everything you have on the Raiden and Chevreuse banner, let's wait. Let's see what Xilonen does. Maybe it'll be her, maybe it'll be another character that will also have good buffing and debuffing and multi-wave performance. Final 4-star before the weapon banner is Thoma. Thoma is in a pretty decent spot right now. Great pick on Florand Chevreuse teams. Best mix of comfort and power. He's got some Wanderer stuff. He's got his Burgeon stuff. He's not like an S tier pull, but he's pretty comfy in those teams. Yeah, I like Thoma. He's a character that's aged pretty well. You can also use him with some Mulanni stuff. I like that. Thoma's good. So the overall too long didn't read for these banners is really good banners if you like the on banner character, and really bait banners if you don't want the on banner character, because I feel like they're trying to steal your pulls before other characters come out and before the Archon comes out, and we don't know what Chevreuse's future is. Is she tied to Raiden forever? Good, but bait. For the weapon banner, Keqich's weapon, as usual, is specific to him. It looks very cool. I think it's gonna look even better in game. The weapons since Fontaine have just looked incredibly good on a whole other level. I'm surprised they included Favonius Lance here instead of Wavebreaker's Fin. I feel like they've been doing wave breakers with Engulfing Lightning. Whether or not you should go for like Keqich's constellations or his weapon, I don't exactly know how much better his weapon will be for him. I'll test it, but I feel like I would recommend constellations because Chevreuse is here. Getting copies of Chevreuse is really good. So for most people, and very much the same case for Raiden, this banner, this weapon is good for Raiden, obviously, but she has a good free-to-play weapon in the catch, and also Deathmatch is a good battle pass option, and you know, her C2 and her Chevreuse constellations are going to do more for her than her weapon does. So even though they made this weapon banner quite good, Sacrificial Bow decent, Sacrificial Sword pretty good, decent, Widsith very good, Rain Slasher bad, Favonius Lance best polearm in the game, best weapon in the game, excellent weapon. I still would recommend more copies of the character over the weapon, simply because of how good Chevreuse is. That is my overall review. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're going to go for these banners. Good luck for your pulls. Take care. Bye for now.